This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
So this is chapter 25, Whitebridge. The chapter icon is the harp.
That's right. As I like to think of it, the first chapter where I came to the realization that Thom is a badass.
We don't get Thom for quite a bit, I think, till the next book after this chapter. This is
I think you might be right.
Last scene in last chapter in Eye of the World.
You don't know if he's alive for a while after this.
No, although Moraine drops a few hints.
Yeah.
Because she knows she's going to see him again.
We were just breaking in between recording sessions, and we were talking about possible futures. And the difference between when characters see possible futures, when they see a prophecy, or like when they just have a strong idea based on logic, and how sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Most
prophecies are pretty much this is going to happen, but a couple of them fork, and they can be, if A, then B, if C, then D.
Right.
Moraine at some point learns that she's going to marry Thom. I think it's when she goes through the rings in book 4.
Wait.
Through Shadow Rising. Or, it might also be when she goes through the Terangrial.
How does that? Yeah, in Tyr.
In Tyr.
How does the Ruidian setup work again? Is it the men walk through the pillars and the women... Do they do something different?
Yeah, so there's the ring Terangrial that the women go through.
Yeah.
And so they go through that the first time, and then they go through the pillars like the men the second time. The men only go once. They only go through the pillars.
Oh, I see.
I think of it as sort of the in the White Tower, it's like being raised accepted. They're actually very similar. You have sort of these ringed Terangrial that they walk through.
Oh, yeah.
But in the White Tower, it's these 3 rings, and you walk through each one, and there are 3 different tests. Whereas the Aiel, they walk through, I think there's a lot more than 3, and they walk through one of them, and they live a bunch of potential lives. We never actually see from their perspective what that looks like.
Oh.
They basically, they witness a bunch of, it's sort of like the flicker scene, where everyone experiences a bunch of different lives.
Portal Stone scene.
Yeah, the Portal Stone scene, where it kind of messes up. It really seems that the Wise Ones go through a very similar life experience when they go through the rings, where they experience a bunch of potential lives, and they don't remember everything, but they take away some key thoughts. So they take away, things that they know they can't do and things that they know they have to do. And one of the things I think Moraine takes away from that is that she has to marry Thom, or will marry Thom. But I'm not entirely sure if that's when she learns it. So it sounds like she does tell Thom that he will survive right after she comes out of the Twisted Terangrial.
The Twisted Terangrial is the one in Tyr.
Yeah. So it's interesting that I wish I knew what her answers were. What her questions were.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as I can tell, we don't know anything about what she asks.
She just gives a small amount of bits and pieces through the rest of the series.
But somehow she learns that she will marry Thom.
Yeah.
But so at this point, she doesn't know that he's alive. I think she just has suspicions that he's more capable than maybe the boys give him credit for.
Well, I think they know who the other one is. I think they at least know each other's names and reputations already.
Yeah, I think we talked about how that is probably...
They're both kind of famous.
They're both they're at least both part of the nobility in 2 countries that are that interact all the time.
And Thom has I think a reputation that would make him be taken seriously in Cairhien, if not as much so in some of the other nations.
He was the queen's lover. You keep track of who the queen's sleeping with.
Sure.
And
that's important, but...
That's totally important.
The whole Silver Fox...
Oh, yeah, the manipulator.
Right? Yeah.
And
I forget who calls him that.
All the ladies. Maybe we should get Anderson Cooper to play him in the
Anderson Cooper. I don't know if he's old enough.
Well, I've just heard people.
He's not mustachy enough.
No. Well, you can always grow a mustache.
And maybe if we put a mustache on him.
Because like people definitely refer to him as a silver fox.
It would work.
Yeah, I'm all right. Anderson Cooper is my vote for Thom Maryland. I mean, not that he's an actor or anything.
We try to stay positive on this podcast, but those are my least favorite posts that I see online when people are like...
You're not going to influence anybody.
True.
Like, there's so many things that go into casting that have nothing to do with, like...
Every once in a while, I'll see one of those posts and be like, yeah, that's what I think they look like. Or...
I would like them better if they said, hey, I think character X looks like actor Y.
Yeah, I guess they're really just, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Basically.
But the, like, oh, this person should play that character because of X, Y, and Z, and they shouldn't play, like... We don't know what's going on in their personal lives. They're people, you know. They have jobs. They're looking for opportunities. They may hate fantasy. Like there's so many things that go into casting that have nothing to do with what the actor looks like.
Yeah.
I know people put a lot of work into them and care a lot, but we're book nerds. We're not TV nerds.
That's true.
I know, you know, there's people who really care about
some
TV
people
actors.
Are way more into TV stuff. I just recently got caught up on Game of Thrones, just hanging out with Frances, and she wanted to binge watch the last like 4 episodes or whatever that came out.
Yeah, I'm caught up with
Oh,
the
you've
show.
been watching?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Just the animations of everything and how they imagine the...
Yeah, and I like seeing the story carried forward because I don't think George R. Martin will ever carry it forward. So it's nice to see someone pick it up. The way I basically consider Martin dead to me. And in the same way that Sanderson picked the series up and finished it when Jordan died, HBO has picked the series up and is going to finish it after
now
Martin.
That you consider
now
Martin
that I
dead?
consider Martin dead because he's dead to me.
I'm calming down. I was mad about it for a while. Just as soon as I heard that the show was going to go past the books, I felt like I got ripped off somehow. I don't know how. Nobody made an agreement with me or anything, but I have a certain expectation that the book comes before the movie or show.
Right. He's the boy who cried book. You know, like it's coming out. Really? No.
Oh God, I can hardly blame the guy though. When I start thinking about it objectively, how much money do you think he's making? He just like he has a room where he just takes a bath in $100 bills like Scrooge McDuck. Probably by now. Yeah, I mean, like millions of people tune in to watch that show.
Yeah, he's making bank. I mean, and then the thing is, he's making good money off the books.
Oh yeah, I mean, the show sells the books.
Yeah.
Who the hell would know about A Song of Ice and Fire if it wasn't for the show? Me
and you and me, but like, yeah, basically all the people who are currently listening to this podcast, and they're basically, if you know about Wheel of Time, you would have known about.
I found A Song of Ice and Fire because in my hometown, I had developed like a relationship with the librarians there, and I would come like once or twice a week and like stock or look for things or whatever. And I would show up and I would literally just walk up to the librarians that I knew did like the sci-fi fantasy mystery whole area. And I'd be like, just finished this and this, like, what do you think? Like, what's some stuff like that? And they would be like, this one, and this one. I'll just take all of them and see which one I like, That's how I found A Song of Ice and Fire. It was one of those.
I did that at a used bookstore, and I had the guy who worked there was, at the time I thought he was ancient. He must have been like 21, and I'd be like, I just finished, Dragonlance. What should I read now? And I think he handed me Wheel of Time. I think I can blame that guy for getting me on Wheel of Time. I think I just got to Song of Ice and Fire because I just pulled the biggest book off the bookshelf I could find, and Game of Thrones was, I was just looking for big ones. Which is not a great way to pick out your books, but publishers don't often put out books that are that big unless they're also pretty good. So it's expensive to make a book that big.
I wonder if that's predictive in any way of the content.
Well, it's predictive for the kind of content that I like.
I guess that's always, if you like it or not. Game of Thrones was fun when I first found it.
Yeah, weren't we going to like just jump into this chapter and get started right away?
We have not started the chapter yet.
No, we haven't.
I'm going to read the first couple of things I have underlined here. Because I think that's enough preamble.
That's way more preamble than we possibly could use.
The last unsteady note of what had been barely recognizable as the wind that shakes the willow faded mercifully away, and Matt lowered Tom's gold and silver chased flute. I suppose I should thank you, Tom Maryland muttered finally, for teaching me how old the saying is, teach him how you will, a pig will never play the flute. The sailor burst out laughing. So you kind of enter into the chapter with Tom making fun of Matt here and, well, self-appointed job of keeping the sailors happy.
I think he's also testing the boys a little bit. Tom has this idea in his head that he's going to get these boys away from Moraine.
Yeah, have we talked about this yet? I can't remember if we talked about this in the last one.
A little bit, but I think this is really like it hits home in this chapter.
Right. In this, at the end of this scene, we see. Well,
we also recorded this chapter before, so we may have.
We probably did talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea that Tom wants these boys to be basically his actual apprentices.
Yeah.
He's really gunning for that.
I want to read this next line. I thought all you shepherds whiled away the time with the flock playing the pipes or the flute. Rand's the shepherd, Mac grumbled. He plays the pipes, not me. Yes, well, he does have a little aptitude. Perhaps we had better work on juggling, boy. At least you show some talent for that. So he's really getting to know the boys, and he is, like, assessing them, just like you said.
You know, we're getting some skills. Matt's got some fast hands, which makes him good at juggling.
Yeah.
Also good at fighting.
Right. We get to see a lot of that later.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's kind of a fun observation to see that early.
Yeah, and that explains a little bit of his talent with the juggling, where he like picks up, I think I complained about that earlier, about how quickly he picks up juggling.
Yeah.
But he's, if he's got the fastest hands that Tom's ever seen, they're
he is
pretty fast.
Sort of a superhero in the making.
Yeah.
This is like, Spider-Man's like third day. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't.
No. I find it interesting that Matt is capable of learning these things with the dagger, and he never seems to really lose these skills, even though he loses a bunch of the memories of this time.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting observation. See, I attribute all of this stuff to like the memories that kind of start to turn him into Odin, or like the Odin archetype, the like warrior god, the god of.
Sure, but that doesn't happen until after he goes to the second Terran-Grial.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's a lot that happens before then.
But I mean, it's in him, Yeah.
No? Okay. I think there's a debate there. I mean, I think he's got the old blood, and that's where he gets the language from.
That's true.
But he's not lucky at this point. He doesn't have the memories. He's not he's good with the staff and the bow, but he's not like a particularly good fighter.
Yeah, probably.
He's got a lot of growing to do. He's pretty much just a milkmaid at this point.
Yeah. I mean, that's more or less true as well.
Yeah. There's got to be a better name for it. A dairy farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a farm boy.
Or as President Trump would say, one of those milk people.
Oh, I was going to say, I think we've kind of historically at this point leaned in kind of opposite or opposing directions on that one. I really like to think that some of it is already there.
Yeah.
The big catalysts haven't happened yet.
In the same way that Rand can already channel, Perrin is already a wolf brother.
Yeah.
You think Matt already has some of the...
something, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He has kind of the least defined power.
Well, he's got the luck, he's got the memories, and then he's got fast hands and some skill with the staff and the bow.
Yeah.
But that really seems to be, and he's clever and mischievous, which is sort of that Odin stuff. But
yeah,
he's not particularly skilled or powerful. He never really does anything, as far as I can tell, that's helpful. Like, honestly, like up until he is healed,
really.
He is kind of, he holds up his half of the juggling, but that's pretty much it. You know, he gets the boys in trouble. He steals stuff.
He's already a big sourpuss at this point.
Oh, well, he's totally infected with the pessimism of Shadar Logoth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really think the character Matt that we know and love wakes up in Tar Valon because the guy we saw before Shadar Logoth was a bored kid at home with nothing to do.
And that's when the luck really starts.
I don't think he's that lucky.
I mean, that night when he wakes up in...
Yes, when he wakes up in Tar Valon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when the luck starts. Because that's once he's been healed from the dagger.
Right.
The luck is from Shadar Logoth.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I was like, is it a thing that is part of Matt, or is it the Dark One's own luck? Or, using that.
Mm-hmm. Again, he might be a little lucky. He's predisposed to these things. He has a little bit of the memories. He's got a little bit of luck. He wins dice more often than he loses. But that could just be him thinking he's lucky. Who knows? And then when he is healed from the dagger... Yeah, okay, so going a little deep into the healing, what I think happens is basically the Aes Sedai at this point are pretty non-skilled. And what they do is cut away any portion of him that has been infected with the Shadar Logoth taint. And so that's why he's got these holes in his memories, is the Aes Sedai actually cut the holes in his memory and in his mind to remove the taint of the dagger. But I think somehow by separating him... Man, all right, I'm going real deep into this one.
Okay.
Mordeth is inherently unlucky in the same way that Matt is inherently lucky. And
why is Mordeth unlucky?
It basically comes from his death, right? So this is my mind canon of how do I justify how stupid and pointless Fain's death was at the end. And my idea is he is unlucky. And Matt's luck entirely is balanced out by Fain's bad luck. And the pattern needs a balance.
So you think as a side effect of healing Matt from Mashadar becoming a part of him, in removing, or Mashadar, Mordeth, whatever, in removing the darkness from Eridol from Matt, it left like a cleaner, or kind of like, I don't want to say cleaner, but like I'm imagining like, if typical people were like an unpolished piece of silverware, like Matt got a polishing.
Yeah, or
I'm trying to think of a better analogy. I don't know how to.
So my analogy would be Shadar Logoth is this thing that is constrained by location. Two pieces of Shadar Logoth have left: Mordeth and the dagger. And Matt was infected with the dagger, right? So Matt sort of is the dagger half of, and then what happens when Matt is healed is the dagger is stripped away from him, and what was a balanced odds tips during the healing. And so because they're linked together and they're outside of Shadar Logoth, that by breaking them apart, they've somehow given Matt some of the good luck and weighed him heavier on the scale with good luck, and Fain, or I mean, I guess the other way around would be like made him lighter by stripping the dagger away from him. He's sort of lighter, and so he gets more good luck, and Fain is heavier, so he gets the bad luck.
I see what you mean.
And it's just some...
I was thinking
not very good supported headcanon. Yeah. I mean, there's not...
I was thinking if Mashadar is a culmination of all the negative human emotions.
Sure.
More or less. In like him becoming infected with it and then having it removed, he may be cleaned up a little. Like,
yeah, okay.
Missing the darkness.
That they pulled... Okay, here's a better theory.
Like as if rust settled onto steel and then they polished the whole thing to get rid of it.
Right.
That's the best analogy I can think of. Or like, if you get ink on a white shirt and then you use, or ink on a tan shirt and then you use bleach to remove it and now it's white.
Basically, they were pulling the badness out of Matt, and they pulled some of the negative luck out of Matt, which was attached to the shadow. Yeah.
This is real rough.
Real rough. I mean, this is... It's one of the least understood parts of the book, is like where does his luck come from? We know when it happens, but is it a process of the healing? Is it a process of being bonded to the dagger? Is it somehow a balance with Moradin and the damage he does in the pattern? Like, I really don't know.
I always saw it more of as a part of his Taveran nature until we had this conversation right now. Like that would just be a part of Matt. Like it's something that would have happened either way. That's the way I looked at it.
I don't see it as his Taveran nature. I think that the luck is separate from his Taveranness.
I never even thought about it any other way, to be honest.
If only just because of the timing, right? He doesn't really seem to be that lucky until the healing. And then we get that whole first-person perspective, and the night he can't lose, and jumping off a bridge and landing on a dude and crushing him.
And only after that do really absurd things start happening.
Exactly. And then this constant comment where everyone's like, you have the Dark One's own luck, and it really bothers him. He doesn't have the Dark One's luck. He has Shadar Logoth's luck.
Maybe. I like it. And then a sailor sees a Whitebridge and calls out, I believe. And I'm skipping ahead a little. It looks like glass, Rand said to no one in particular. Captain Doman paused behind him and tucked his thumbs behind his broad belt. Nay, lad, whatever it be, it no be glass. Never so hard the rains come, it no be slippery. And the best chisel and strongest arm no make a mark on it. A remnant from the age of legends, Thom said. I have always thought it must be. The captain gave a dour grunt. Mayhap. It's definitely from the age of legends. A funny thing happens in a second where a shadow glances across it, but still useful despite. Could be someone else built it. Does no have to be Aes Sedai work, Fortune prick me. It no has to be so old as that. Put your back into it, you bloody fool. He hurried off down the deck. Rand stared even more wonderingly. From the age of legends, made by Aes Sedai then. That was why Captain Domon felt the way he did. For all his talk about the wonder and strangeness of the world. Aes Sedai work. One thing to hear about it, another thing to see it, and touch it. You know that, don't you? For an instant, it seemed to Rand that a shadow rippled across the milk-white structure. He pulled his eyes away, to the docks coming nearer, but the bridge still loomed in the corner of his vision. So that's a weird little scene where this shadow is cast across the bridge, and it kind of made me wonder while we were talking about it if it's just a bridge.
Yeah, I assume it has something to do with the power holding up its structure, but I don't think we get anything else about Whitebridge. It's just a cool bridge. I just kind of wanted to see it fall down, or just really hard crystal. I think, because Quendiar has a very distinct look to it. Well, I don't know, because anything can be Quendiar, but no, it looks white. Well, dang it! Now I'm all. Well, I'm confusing myself here.
Imagined it looks like metal.
I always thought it looked like...
Are power-up blades Quendiar?
No. Power-up blades are not Quendiar.
Okay.
They are metal that is reinforced and sharpened. I don't see a description for it, but it does say she can only make it out of iron.
Oh. I didn't realize that.
Well, Egwene, at least, can only make it out of iron.
And she's... Oh, no, she's not the only person.
No, others can. But
Is she the one that
teaches
rediscovers it?
Yes. Because she's got the talent with metals.
Oh, right. Can we presume that men would be better at making Quendiar than women?
I don't know, because I think it's a talent.
Isn't the metal thing a male talent or something?
The earth and fire is supposedly better with men.
Yeah.
And that's one of those situations where I think Moraine maybe says that, but I think she may be wrong. Because we see so many, I feel like all the genders are pretty equal. Like, individuals may have preferences, but the Forsaken never say that. It's just something Moraine says.
It's difficult to really understand how powerful any one person is, especially in a particular power of the five.
Right, because so many things are a mix of the powers.
Yeah, and, a lot of times when people are channeling, they're not trying to blow a mountain flat. They're trying to do something subtle or
Sure.
a specific task that doesn't, we don't get to see it measured all the time.
You don't need a lot of power to unlock a door or float a
Right.
tea kettle.
We just see kind of general references to the overall how powerful someone is as someone's thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think of the power as how like strong somebody is, but if you're playing a particular sport, you can be really strong and still be really bad at the sport. And so I think
Yeah.
of like, you may be an incredibly powerful channeler, but you may suck at making gateways because that's a particular talent. And
Yeah,
no
that
matter
makes
how
sense.
strong you are, it doesn't. That's why some channelers just can't heal, no matter how strong they are. Skill plays as much of an important role in what you can do as raw strength does.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. Now there is some benefit to being strong in terms of you're able to pick things up quicker. See a weave once and copy it, and you remember it forever. There's definitely some benefit there.
When that scene when we see Nynaeve go up against, it's a female Forsaken that she goes up against,
Mogedian.
Mogedian.
Yeah.
And she just throws everything that she has against her. Even though she's unskilled by comparison, she's just so powerful that nothing. Mogedian's stuck.
Mogedian makes the mistake of getting caught in a raw power battle against an inexperienced channeler.
Yeah.
She assumed she could overpower her and just went head to head and was like, yeah, I'm just going to overpower this girl and keep moving.
Oops.
Whereas if she'd been skilled at all, if they
Yeah. Is she captured in that scene,
No.
Mogedian? Oh, no.
Well, she does shield her, but she ties the shield off, and then Mogedian disappears. Because Mogedian, like all the Forsaken, know how to break through a tied-off shield. The same way that Rand does when he's in the box. So she just needs a little bit of time after the shield's tied off to break through and disappear. So
Gotcha.
it's only later they confront her in the world of dreams that they're able to capture her.
Oh.
And she's in the circus with them.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so they're in the circus, and Mogedian figures out where they are, which circus they're in, and they're able to drug her with a fork root in the world of dreams, track her down because she doesn't wake up, and they know she's in the circus. Elaine is able to recreate an Adom, Terangrial, and then they're able to wrap it around her neck in real life. It's a little confusing because they wrap an Adom around her neck twice, once in the world of dreams, and then again in the real world. And it's not the same Adom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they link that with the fork root tea.
It's like in an office building where you have to go through a door and then a door. Otherwise, all the air conditioning gets out.
Yeah, totally.
Or, the one power.
I like it.
Feels like the one power right now. It's been like 105 degrees last week.
Dude, could someone find the ball of the winds, please?
Yeah.
We really, we're in this endless summer. The Dark One is touching the world. We can feel it.
The Dark One is touching the world in Oregon. I'm sweating right now. Straight up. I'm not even just being funny. I am sweating.
I did notice a little bit of the influence of the dagger here on Matt. It was really early in the chapter. There's this confrontation on the boat right before they get to Whitebridge between Matt and Rand. I don't know if it's even a confrontation, where Matt's like basically saying, what if all our friends are dead? We have to accept those facts. And at that moment, Rand looks into Matt's eyes for an extended period of time. And I think he gets a little bit of the corruption of Shadar Logoth. Because the next thing he says, right after staring Matt in the eye, is, they had to believe the others were alive. They had to. Why? Nagged a voice in the back of his head. So it will all turn out like one of Thom's stories. The heroes find the treasure and defeat the villain and live happily ever after. Some of his stories don't end up that way. Sometimes even heroes die. Are you a hero, Randolph Thor? Are you a hero, Sheepherder? And then right after that, abruptly Matt flushed and pulled his eyes away. Freed from his thoughts, Rand jumped up to move. So there's this period of time where Matt and Rand are looking each other in the eye, and Rand is having these very negative and also italicized thoughts
Yeah.
And I think that that's Matt's influence, because we do hear Moraine say that his corruption can spread to the people around him.
Weren't you saying that when he hears Luz Theron's thoughts, it's italicized?
I think so, yeah.
But Rand has thoughts, and they're not italicized.
Right. So that's why I think this thought may be coming, they're definitely pointing this out. And also he talks to himself in the third person here. He says, "Are you Rand al'Thor? Are you sheep herder?"
Weird.
Which he doesn't do in many other places.
I didn't think about that, but there must be some reason it's italicized.
Yeah, and the only thing I could think of is that this is an external thought. This is a bit of the
doubt and negativity.
Absolutely.
Just being near Matt technically could begin to affect things, or him touching anything, and surely they're like...
And this happens when they are staring each other eye to eye, nose to nose.
Aren't they like sleeping next to each other, just like out on the boards of the ship or something?
I think so, yeah. Well, just like in this instance, while Rand is thinking this, they are literally looking at each other, staring each other in the eyes.
Yeah, that's interesting. More speculation from us, of course, but I really like that theory. It could either be the eye contact. It could also be that they've just been in such close contact for so long that this is...
I think that may make him susceptible.
Sure. And everyone around him.
Eventually.
Because we know that.
Yeah.
Once it seeps into a person, it can go move through the person.
Which may be one of the reasons why Thom is so concerned about a mutiny that wouldn't normally be a problem.
Because of the dagger?
Yeah.
Oh, because of his negative thoughts?
Just because all the sailors are being affected by this negative thoughts. They're all thinking, like, while normally they might just accept the extra work and realize there are Trollocs after them, they may be a little paranoid, a little mutinous because the dagger's on board. And
Everybody's a little paranoid?
Yep, everyone's a little paranoid on that trip.
Good theory. It's possible.
We know Matt has an effect on those around him. Eventually. Yeah. We don't know if it's in effect yet.
And what happens when Mashadar infects a Ta'veren?
Yeah, well, geez,
something
who knows?
Extra, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Just saying.
I think the dagger is having more of an effect than you think at first glance.
Yeah. I never noticed that before. I just assumed it. I don't know.
It was
I just
confined
took
to
it
Matt.
at face value.
Yeah.
And all the events around him, I just took it all at face value.
I think that on their trip, they talk a lot about being driven off from farmers' lands. I think, that certainly is partially due to the dagger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I kind of took that at face value, too. And not just because it's hard times, but because Matt's a suspicious weirdo, and he's leering at everyone, and
that's definitely part of it. But it also might be that the people are
just get close to these people and they chase them away, and they do single out Matt when they do it.
Totally.
Yeah, get out of here in your shifty eyes. I think a farmer literally yells something like that.
Yeah, and he certainly has shifty eyes. So I don't really know where to draw the line there. Like, how affected are the farmers more paranoid because of the dagger, or are they just paranoid because Matt looks shifty as hell?
Could be both.
It takes time still at this point. And so I'm sure farmers he's encountering for the first time, probably not much of an effect. But there's a couple of times where they spend the night and the farmers get more and more uncomfortable. And I have to wonder if that's not this. It's not just that Matt's weird. It's that these farmers are slowly being affected by the dagger and getting a little more paranoid as the night goes on.
Yeah. I like that theory. Except for the farmer whose daughter is trying to bang Rand. Oh, God, I can't say bang. Captain Domon kicks Gelb off the ship.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all remember.
We won't see him again until he shows back up with... Ageenan, thank you.
Yeah. He's in the next scene, but yeah, that one we don't see him again until...
Which, how funny is it that he ends up with Ageenan, and then Ageenan and Doman, his two bosses, get together? I never made that connection before.
How unfortunate for him.
The two people that Gelb is working for end up being a couple.
I never I never thought of that.
No, I didn't either.
I don't think he's a dark friend or anything. I think he's just a pathetic character.
He's certainly a jerk. And lazy.
Yeah, I think he's just a selfish dick. But, there's plenty of those in regular life. Yeah.
Sure. The only reason I thought he was a dark friend is because the Trollocs always seem to find Domon. They seem to be following him, and I have to wonder if he wasn't a plant or something. But
oh, maybe.
Yeah, more likely that he's just a jerk, because Jordan liked putting some jerks in his stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have some, really lowly characters to balance out all the altruism and heroism and the rest of the characters.
I think Elida is a great example of a character who's not evil, just awful. She's
just a misguided, mean, cold-hearted person. Like everybody's boss that they've had at some point in your life. Domon pressuring Thom to stay on the ship.
He definitely takes that advice to heart. Even if he doesn't want to necessarily be on the ship, he does think hey, we could make some money if we went down to Illian.
Yeah, Domon gives him a pretty good pitch and throws him a sack of coins and says, before Thom leaves, I'll give you that again, actually, if you come back.
And Thom basically, he weighs the purse and he goes, we're going to have to talk.
Yeah, he's like, if your friends aren't here, he turns around and says that right after.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go look for them and see if they've been here. And if they aren't, we're going to have to talk, boys. Yeah. And I assume what that means is we're going to go to Illian. You're going to continue to be my apprentices, but except for real.
Yeah. And we're going to live out our lives away from these crazy Aes Sedai and their stupid schemes.
Not so bad, boys.
Yeah. And
you don't really want to be wrapped up in this stuff.
Nope. And I'll teach you how to do it, and we'll be on the road, and it'll be great.
It wouldn't have been such a bad life if this wasn't the end of the world beginning right now.
Right. And the fact that they will never actually be able to hide.
Right. And Rand says that immediately after. He's like, Thom, no matter where we go, they'll chase us. And he is right.
Yeah, and Thom sees that too, especially when the Fade finds them later.
Well, yeah, it doesn't take much longer.
No. There is one thing we found out, that Logain has been captured. So last time we heard about him, he'd been actually successful, I think, in the first battle. And Gillidan was entrenched in war. So now we just get a little bit of news that the False Dragon had been captured in a big battle near Lugard. And so very soon we'll see him paraded through Camelyn.
That's right.
And that's due to him falling at this battle at this time.
Yeah. I had one thing right around there that I forgot to mention. As they're getting off the ship, Domon says, and I'll just read this, well, mayhap those Trollocs were after you. Rand blinked but kept silent. But Matt was not so cautious. Why do you think they weren't? He demanded. They're after the same treasure we were hunting. Mayhap, the captain grunted. I don't know if we've talked about that before on this one, but we know that Captain Domon has one of the Seals of the Dark One's prison in his ship right now.
Mm-hmm. And he picked that up in Meridon in the Borderlands.
Yeah.
In the shop. And so he's been followed ever since by Trollocs.
And you can see in that scene, the captain doesn't believe that the Trollocs were following them, even though they were following both of them.
Right. I think that's the confusion, is both of them are like, yeah, the Trollocs are following me. No, the Trollocs are following me.
The captain's like, yeah, maybe they were.
They're both right. So they were both entangled in Trollocs, and they happened to be in the same place at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But neither one believes the other.
Yeah, and then they enter the inn. They get the news about Logain.
There's a little bit breaking the fourth wall here. Rand says, no one would ever think what happened to some village folk from the Two Rivers was worth talking about, not unless they were Two Rivers people themselves. And I just think that's funny to have in a book that starts a 14-book series about the Two Rivers folk that we talk about for hours and hours and hours.
All the important characters, or all the major characters, are from the Two Rivers, basically.
I think you and I definitely think this is worth talking about. That's all I wanted to say in response to that.
How many hours have we done this for now? Like 30?
It's definitely worth talking about, no matter what Rand says. So you're wrong, Rand.
That's funny. That is sort of breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, especially with this podcast.
When you said that, I was like, what is he talking about? But I don't know if that was intentional, but
I mean, I have to assume that Jordan was, that's a little bit of a self-joke in there where he's like, he knows he's sitting down to write these books.
Yeah.
About the Two Rivers folk. And then to have a little quote about how no one cares about the Two Rivers folk, that's got to be a little like self-jab there.
I mean, if you're reading the paperback, you already made it to page 387. So
yeah, just like 2 other books.
You're well on your way.
They're in the inn.
And I think more examples that Logain is able to use the power. And so now they know he's being taken to Camelyn, which I guess was really only relevant later. Now this is just like a side plot that our characters only hear news about.
It is interesting, though, that we get little snippets of other... I mean, Logain becomes a pretty major character.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's nice to have little snippets of his life and what's going on. Why aren't they taking him back to Tarvalin?
They are.
They're just going through Camelyn?
They're just going through Camelyn.
Got it. That makes sense.
Because he's not gentled.
No. And then they're going to take him probably down the Arenal or up the Arenal to Tarvalin?
I think that's how it works. I'd have to look at a map, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a direct river route. Oh yeah, he's not gentled yet. They have to take him to Tarvalin. Well,
by
legally.
law.
Yeah.
Which they didn't do for Owen.
Right.
But they're doing it for him because they want a big procession and a trial.
The Keeper's like, they'll be taking him there to present to the Queen Morghese, but it's just the most convenient route to Tarvalin from where they are.
Yeah, well, I mean, a little bit of both. So there's no reason not to honor the Queen while you're going through. And
it makes the Aes Sedai look powerful and awesome.
True.
You're like,
True.
You remember that dragon you all were scared of?
Yeah, here he's in chains.
You sent the ladies after it. For real though.
Don't mess with the Aes Sedai.
Yeah, it's kind of a political move, maybe.
I also feel like when they're talking about the innkeeper, he mentions a Weasley fellow that's been looking for him, which I assume is Fain.
Yeah, he says, I forget how it comes up exactly, but he mentions that. Oh, I think right after Thom says, we're looking for our friends, and he gives like a sort of nondescript description to the innkeeper, and then the innkeeper sort of pauses, and he's like, there was someone in here there was someone else in here asking about people like that look sort of like that. And first he describes Fain, and then he says, but then someone else came. Oh yeah, we also hear news that the hunt for the horn has been declared. They want people to gather in Illian.
Yeah. So I think the trick here is that Thom was quizzing the innkeeper about various things and trying not to mention their friends directly, and Rand blurts it out. And so Rand's like, oh, have you seen our friends? And Tom's like, we were trying not to let them know that these were our friends. I could have figured it out without you. Would you shut the heck up, you sheep herder? Like, because then all of a sudden, the innkeeper freezes up because there's been somebody else asking about, and he knows they're friends with the people.
Yep. Thom still seemed to be 1,000 miles away because he's thinking like, oh, like not only could we have made a bunch of money in Illian, but if I go down there, I can tell the best version of the Great Hunt for the Horn, win a ton of gold, and people will be way more interested than usual because the first hunt for the Horn in like 500 years just got called.
Yeah, he's super excited.
So he's like staring at his feet like, all right, how do I get myself down there? Thom still seemed to be 1,000 miles away, so Rand said, we're looking for some friends who are coming this way, from the west. Skipping ahead a little, what do they look like, these friends of yours? The innkeeper asks. 2 men and 3 women, Thom said reluctantly, and he's like, that's not true. And then he says, they may be together, or maybe not.
Well, cause,
it's a pretty good screen he throws over that.
Oh, yeah. Because I think that he was going to basically say, so, anything weird going on? And the innkeeper would have been like, oh, yeah, these guys were asking about these weird people, and he would have discovered it without admitting that they knew them. And Matt... and
without giving anything away,
exactly.
Could have discovered what the news was.
And Rand just stepped right in that one.
Goddamn farm boys.
Yeah.
And then the innkeeper says... Forget about performing here, Gleeman. In fact, I'd appreciate it if you drank your wine and left. Leave Whitebridge if you're smart. Someone else has been asking after them. Thom took a drink, as if the answer were the least important thing in the world, and raised an eyebrow at the innkeeper. Who would that be? About a week ago, as near as I can say, a Weasley fellow came over the bridge. Crazy, everybody thought. always talking to himself, never stopped moving when he was standing still, asked about the same people. Some of them.
And that's Fain. And I think he's going a little nuts because he is split between...
He's literally 2 people now.
Yeah.
Or like 3 people or something.
He's 2 people. And you've got...
The distillation of Padden Fain and Mashadar.
Yeah, and they can't... Or Mordeth.
Or, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. And neither one really has dominance.
I kind of want to say while we're recording, I apologize that I just use those interchangeably. They're not the same.
Mashadar and Mordeth.
Mashadar and Mordeth aren't the same thing. They're related, but they're not the same.
Yeah, one is the mist made up of the souls of the people of the city. The other is the ancient person who corrupted the city.
Yeah.
And his personality remains intact.
Right.
And ends up in Fain.
So it is 2 distinct entities, right?
At first.
Okay. Because he gets the dagger.
Yeah, that helps. But what's happening is Mashadar doesn't like the light. Fain and his compulsion to follow the boys has dominance during the day. Mordeth and Mashadar have dominance during the night.
That's right. Because next we talked about this a little bit too. He asked like it was important, then acted like he didn't care what the answer was. Half the times he was saying he had to wait here for them. The other half that he had to go on, that he was in a hurry. 1 minute whining and begging, the next making demands like a king. So he leaves before the boys get there. Fain needs to wait for the boys.
Yes.
The distillation of Padden Fain wants to wait for the boys, or the hound, whatever you want to call it.
Fain, the one who's been touched by the Dark One.
And what was our theory? That Mashadar wants to move on.
So he's the one who's like a king.
Who wants to go to Camelyn because of all the people.
Yeah, that's my theory. Is he's looking for a big population center that he can corrupt and take over.
Yeah,
he's looking for the largest. He's basically looking for a source of power, political power. That in the same way that Mordeth was sort of the voice behind the kingdom in ancient Shadar Logoth, he wants to do the same thing. So that's why he tries to go to Camelyn. Then he ends up with the White Cloaks because he finds himself. He tries to become the voice behind the power there until they're soundly defeated, and then he goes to Elida and tries to corrupt her.
Oh my gosh, forgot about that.
Yeah, and try and become the voice there. He uses the Shan-Chan. He tries to become the voice behind the power there.
Oh yeah, he brings some artifacts or something and says, "This was kept in my family."
Mm-hmm. He brings the horn of Valier, the chest with the horn and the dagger in it.
Jeez.
To the Shan-Chan. This is Mordeth so Fain is driven by these 2 instincts to follow the boys and to find a source of power and become the voice and the power behind it. And those 2 are at war with each other. And if you think about that, and the fact that Mashadar is more
ingeniously evil invention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mashadar is more powerful at night. So there's a scene where in The Hunt for the Horn, they're following Fain and a Fade. And in the morning, they go one direction. And as the day wears on, they switch directions. And what happens is, in the night, Mordeth and Mashadar become more powerful and are able to, in the morning, determine which direction they're going. As the day wears on, he becomes less powerful, and the Fain is able to turn them back towards the Blight.
There's another good one that I never really noticed before.
Yeah, there's this day-night cycle that happens with Fain. That goes away over time as they merge together and become...
more Fain. Yeah. Fain death.
Yeah. They become more of an amalgamation of the 2 and less 2 separate entities. And I think that specifically happens during the time when he has the horn. Because there's that zigzagging pattern, and eventually the days go in his direction longer and longer each day until he just finally nails the Fade to the doorway.
Oh, right.
And I think at that point he overcomes the dichotomy in himself, and they merge together to form one being.
Why does he nail the Fade to the doorway?
To kill it.
Just for the fun of murdering a Fade?
Because at that point, he's still fighting the Fade. Because during part of the day, the Fade controls which way they're going. And during part of the day, Fain, and so they're sort of fighting back and forth. And Fain just, literally puts the nail in the coffin on that one by saying, "Nope, I win. You're getting nailed to the door."
Oh, I was thinking of it as a fight between Mordeth and Fain.
No, Mordeth and I think
Fade.
those two are actually merging. And the Fade itself. I mean, yes, there's a comment when Fain is in control. I know Fain and Fade, hard to determine the difference. But when
My bad. I see what you're saying.
yeah, when Fain is in control, he doesn't have the power of Shadar Logoth, and the Fade takes over and tells them which way to go. When Mordeth takes over and is in control, he's very powerful, and the Fade can't stop him. And they go the way Mordeth wants to go.
Right.
And eventually those two merge together. And when he's no longer battling himself internally, and Fain and Mordeth merge,
He's able to kill a Fade.
He's able to kill
with
a
his
Fade.
bare hands.
Basically. Yes.
Or a hammer and a nail.
Yeah.
Or
So
5 nails. I think it's 5.
I can't help but think of the Inquisitors in Brandon Sanderson's series, Mistborn.
Oh, the nail heads.
The nails through their eyes. Yeah. So, okay, just a bit of diversion on my theory on Fain. And
It's going to be our longest episode ever.
this is going to be crazy. Yeah.
He was crazy, but the other one, Bartim, the innkeeper's eyes shifted uneasily, and his tongue ran over his lips as if he could not find enough to moisten them. Next day, the other one came for the first time. He fell silent. The other one? Thom prompted finally. All in black he is. Keeps the hood of his cloak pulled up so you can't see his face, but you can feel him looking at you. Feel it like an icicle shoved into your spine. He spoke to me. He flinched and stopped to chew at his lip before going on. Sounded like a snake crawling through dead leaves. Fair turned my stomach to ice. Every time he comes back, he asks the same questions. Same questions the crazy man asked. Nobody ever sees him coming. He's just there all of a sudden. Worst of it is, the gatekeepers claim he's never passed through any of the gates, coming out or going.
Gee, let's see. Mysterious figure, no one sees coming or going, with his hood up, speaks like a snake, and strikes fear into your heart. Must be a merchant.
It's probably a banker.
Yeah,
Sounds like
totally,
a banker.
Yeah, maybe a lawyer. That actually, it's a good description for a lawyer. Talks like a snake and strikes fear into your heart.
Yeah. He will rob you of your future.
Right. So yeah, it's a Fade. Yeah, this is the Murdral. This is the same Murdral that later finds them in this chapter.
And then our 3 right now go and take a private table for a moment.
And Thom pitches heading down to Illian.
Mm-hmm. And around that moment, Gelb walks in and starts gossiping with like some other people sitting at the bar.
Right.
But they're on like the other side of a dividing wall. So they know Gelb's there, but Gelb doesn't know they're there.
And they basically, Gelb is talking about the Trollocs and the boat and the 3 of them, and they realize that there's no way they can get back on the boat because Gelb is basically painting a big neon sign pointing to where they would have gone.
I'm going to read you the first line of every paragraph. First line of every other paragraph on this page. That's crazed, boy. Things have changed. You listen to me. No matter what this innkeeper says, when a Myrddraal stares at him, so he's convincing them to leave. Think, boy. Illian, first line. Like 2 down. But boy, Illian. It's just like goes all the way down the page like that. He's just
Thom wants to go to Illian.
And what I mean, to him, it is the best answer. I mean, we know that they don't need to go to Illian right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he can't go to Camelyn because he's wanted.
Oh, why didn't I think of that? He can't go to Camelyn.
Yeah, he's got an order on his head. And Morghese is still the queen. Yeah, he can't go to Camelyn. So he wants to go to Illian.
He's too close already.
Yeah.
I see. I just thought it was more about the money and like a place to go, like a thing to do.
I mean, yes, that too.
I mean, yeah,
it's a carrot and a stick.
It is all those things, but
Yeah.
I totally forgot he's not even allowed to. He shouldn't even. I mean, he's in Andor right
Yeah,
now.
no, he's violating his exile.
Is it an official exile, or did he just run?
Oh, the queen exiled him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever come back in Andor, I'll have your head or something like that. I mean, it was definitely said in anger, but she's gonna hold to it.
Yeah, she will.
Yeah, and all the other reasons you said, the hunt for the horn, the tale-telling thing, the fact that they can get back on the boat and make decent money on the way there.
Yeah, and then get there and make a pile.
Right.
With all the events that are happening.
Sure. And he can spend all that time training them up and having them do like some very specific things, and the three of them will be a great team.
And save their asses from all the Aes Sedai meddling.
Yeah, totally. It's a great plan.
Yeah.
And then Gelb fucks it up.
They sneak out a window so that Gelb doesn't see them. And Thom says, like, wait here, I'll be right back. And he puts his instruments down and, like, trots down the alley and leaves the boy standing there for a second.
There's a little bit about dreams before that.
Oh, yeah. If you have, what do you got?
Just, he's thinking to himself about how Thom, basically one of the reasons why he knows he cannot go to Illian is because Baal Zman is in his dreams. And that means he cannot escape him simply by running.
Right.
And so
he has to head towards Tar Valon.
Right. And basically says, no, we can't go to Illian, even before Gelb walks in. And I like this quote is, Thom seemed to understand. The Gleeman's face softened. Even those dreams, lad, they are still just dreams, aren't they? For the light's sake, Matt, talk to him. I know you don't want to go to Tar Valon, at least. And that's, Thom, they haven't told Thom how serious the dreams are and the fact that they can affect them in the real world.
I think Thom thinks they're like standard PTSD dreams.
Totally. Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But he's thinking, like, let's just get these boys away from all this and settle down and they'll be fine. They're still just dreams, right? No, they're not.
Yeah. And Rand knows for a fact at this point.
Yeah, he mentions the thorn where his finger is pricked.
I think isn't that just his thought, though, or is that dialogue?
Well, he remembers the dream where
Yeah.
he pricked his finger. So he knows that...
He thinks about it and he's like, no.
No, yeah, they can hurt me.
They're
They
not
really
just
can.
dreams.
Yeah. Oh, we notice here that, Thom gives the coins to Matt, and they mention that that they did not get the coin back that Moraine had given them.
It wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same coin, so they never get that coin back.
Maybe the boat isn't such a bad idea, Matt muttered, but Thom shook his head. Not anymore. The Gleeman spoke softly and fast. That story will be all through the town in an hour, whether anybody believes it or not, and the half-man could hear any time. Dumont isn't sailing until tomorrow morning. At best, he'll have Trollocs chasing him all the way to Illian. Well, he's half expecting it for some reason, but that won't do us any good. There's nothing for it but to run. And that's when they're like, we have to get the hell out of this inn before someone recognizes us, specifically the innkeeper who's been meeting with the Fade regularly and just doesn't know it. And they climb out a little side window. I imagine this place is like a basement, and it just has one high window, and they like crawl out of it.
And as they're running away, sort of Matt lashes out at Thom a little bit.
Yeah.
He's sort of like, why are you doing this? Why are you staying with us? You'd be safer if you left. He's just really suspicious.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to say.
Yeah. And that's how we get Thom sort of gives his story of Owen and why. And that's where we get a lot of his motivation for staying with these boys all this time, as he talks about Owen.
I don't know how much he does actually give a bunch here.
Yeah, he gives it all away here. I had a nephew, Owen.
I don't know how. He's not really clear.
I mean,
but if you want to read it.
Yeah. My brother's only son, my only living kin. He got in trouble with the Aes Sedai, but I was too busy with other things. I don't know what I could have done, but when I finally tried, it was too late. Owen died a few years later. You could say the Aes Sedai killed him. If I can keep you two free of Tar Valon, maybe I can stop thinking about Owen. Wait here.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get the idea that, Owen got in some trouble. Basically, he started channeling. By the time Thom tried to do anything, he had already been gentled.
Right.
Because he wasn't taken back to the tower the way he should have been.
Which Thom sees as a death sentence.
Yeah, and then a few years later, he dies from the gentling.
And I mean, it is.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Nobody lives through.
No. So
for more than a few years.
And that's why you could say the Aes Sedai killed him.
Right.
Because he died from a direct effect of the gentling.
Matt half rose to follow, then settled back. He won't leave these, he said, touching the leather instrument cases. You believe that story? What's the matter with you, Matt? You aren't like this. I haven't heard you laugh in days.
That's just more of that Shadar Logoth paranoia and corruption. Yeah, he doesn't believe the story.
And there's a false peak moment where Thom comes like walking quickly down the alley, and he's wearing this like dark coal gray cloak with the hood up, and the boys like start to cower and lean back, and then they realize it's Thom.
Well, for the first time, Thom realizes he has been linked to the boys, that his description as a gleeman, a white-haired gleeman, is known.
That his survival is tied to theirs now.
So he's now making an effort to disguise himself, which he's great at.
And he returns disguised, and he gives the boys a little bit of advice on how to disguise themselves. He particularly tells Rand to like put his cloak on and slouch or something like that. He was like, you're taller than everyone in this district. Yeah. It's like everyone will remember you. Like try to slouch or something.
Right. Try and hide your height.
And then he's just like, we've wasted too much time already. We have to leave. And they walk out to the end of the alley, and of course, he ran his eyes over the open area, over people moving about on their daily business. And when he brought them back, a Myrddraal was halfway across the square. Where the fate had come from, he could not begin to guess, but it strode toward the three of them with a slow deadliness, a predator with the prey under its gaze. This is kind of a little bit interesting. I'll actually just read the rest of this. People shied away from the black-cloaked figure, avoiding looking at it. The square began to empty out as people decided they were needed elsewhere. The black cowl froze, Rand where he stood. I thought it was kind of a little bit interesting to see a Fade walk through a crowded square. I think that may be the only time we see that happen in the whole series, and how the way people who don't know what it is react to it. Yeah. I just thought that was a little bit interesting to see.
The Fades are terrifying, and they give off some wrongness.
I imagine there's just like a fear pulse.
Totally.
Or like a creeper pulse.
Everyone's like, what the hell is going on? You know, we get a similar sort of bubble around the White Cloaks.
Yeah, same sort of thing.
That one is more people see them and back away. This is just more like they
That's because people
it.
know what they are.
Oh, right. This is the same effect, just from a feeling.
I figure when people know what a Fade is, they just pee themselves. Until later in the series, like you've said before. Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a certain point where they get used to the feeling. And they're able to overcome it.
I mean, certainly the main characters.
Yeah. You know, Tom's like, light burn you, don't look at its face. Thom knows, don't look at its face, because the fear can really freeze you up. And he's just trying to give the boys a chance to escape. And so he doesn't want them to freeze. He wants them to be able to run.
We see here that I felt like Thom was having trouble getting away too. He says, like, don't look at his face, Thom muttered. And then, are we just going to stand here, he mumbled. We have to run. Get away. He could not make his feet move. Think. Thom stopped to swallow and went on hoarsely. Think you can outrun it, do you, boy? He began to mutter to himself. The only word Rand could make out was Owen. Abruptly, Thom growled. I never should have gotten mixed up with you boys. Should never have. He shrugged the bundled Gleeman's cloak off his back and thrust it into Rand's arms. Take care of that. When I say run, you run, and don't stop until you get to Camelyn. The Queen's blessing. In. Remember that, in case. Just remember it. Run. Is basically the way that goes. And Thom charges across the square.
In the audiobook, the Michael Kramer really gets into it. He's like,
he repeats it a bunch of times. I don't think it's a long one like that.
Well, he escalates in the audiobook. So like each time he's a little bit longer.
I like to imagine it was a little short, rude, and abrupt.
Yeah.
A little more short, rude, and abrupt than that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm not doing it justice.
Oh, yeah. He says, when I say run, you run. And he tells him about the end, and Rand's like, I don't understand. He said, just remember it. Now run. And he yells it one more time.
Yeah.
I feel like I should read this part. Thom sprang into motion too, with long, wordless roar. Not after them, but toward the Myrddraal. His hands flourished as if he were performing at his best. And his daggers appeared. Rand stopped, but Mat pulled him along. The Fade was just as startled. Its leisurely pace faltered in mid-stride. Its hand swept towards the hilt of the black sword hanging at its waist, but the Gleeman's long legs covered the distance quickly. Thom crashed into the Myrddraal before the black blade was half drawn, and both went down into a thrashing heap. the few people still in the square fled.
I have to assume that him getting there before the Fade could draw its sword is what saved his life.
Yeah, I think that was the point.
Yeah.
I think that's why Thom
surprise.
survives.
Yeah. And especially if you're dagger thrower and you're going up against a sword wielder, you want to do everything you can to close the distance before they get the sword out.
That's their only chance, really.
Yeah. It's just the reach.
Even if Thom could kill a Fade, probably not. Only I would imagine if he was going to, he'd have to use deception or surprise. You got to sever its head before it gets its sword out.
Yeah. Although I do want to note this one thing.
Yeah.
Right after that last run, I'm reading it. Run! The air in the square flashed an eye-searing blue, and Thom began to scream. What do you think that flash of blue is?
What could he have on him? It has to be something power wrought.
I think he has power wrought daggers, and basically he tackles the Murdral. They both go down in a heap. He yells run, and they both get out their weapons. There's one clash where the weapons meet. Power wrought blade meets Thakandar forged blade. Big flash of blue. Fade either kicks, punches, or I don't think he cuts him, but somehow hurts Thom's leg and then goes after the boys. But that flash of blue makes me think there has to be power wrought blade against sword.
I'm trying to think of what else it could be if there was anything. Just if there was anything else it could be.
There's
could
nothing.
It be wearing like an item of power?
No.
We don't hear about anything like that.
And the
Anything
flash
that
of
would do
blue is so typical
Yeah.
of whenever we see a power wrought blade go up against a Fade.
Power wrought daggers.
Yeah, power wrought daggers. He has to have power wrought daggers.
Nobody else has power wrought daggers.
Thom's awesome.
Yeah, if anyone did, he would.
Yeah.
But Matcham has a power wrought spear, and we don't see any other power wrought spears until the Ashaman start making them.
Right. Well, and his is almost like the sword blade on the end of a spear.
Long stick.
And
yeah.
who knows where the Ashendari comes from?
Sure.
Aelfin give it to him, but they didn't make it. Who knows where they got it?
No, I don't think that they could.
Maybe, but they may have inscribed the poem on it. I don't know. The Ashendari is a whole different artifact in and of itself. It doesn't have an origin. It is the key.
Do you think it's not from Rand's planet? Or time?
No, yeah,
maybe it's from
know.
a much earlier time.
Yeah. I really don't know if it's... he says it's got a power wrought blade on the end of it because it's super sharp and everything.
It has an inscription in the Old Tongue, right?
Yeah, yeah. But the inscription is made... I don't know, because I think the blade existed beforehand, but the inscription was made by the Aelfin when they gave it to Matt.
I like it.
So,
I think we know literally nothing about it.
No, yeah, it's all speculation. We know nothing about the origin of it other than it's given to him.
And there is some mention throughout the series somewhere, but I'm sure I've seen this, that there's other power wrought weapons that aren't swords.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They're just much rarer for some reason, even than the swords.
I think it's like if you're going to wield something that's power wrought, you give it to someone who's skilled, and the sword tends to be what people want.
Yeah.
We were talking about Quendiar earlier, and I was thinking about Quendiar weapons and Quendiar armor.
It should work,
right?
Right?
Yeah. We don't see any Quendiar chest plate or anything like that.
Right? I guess it's hard to make. And what would you really do with it other than outfit soldiers?
Right. Well, I guess you could what if you make Quendiar cannons?
Or, yeah, I was thinking just giant Quendiar shields that you could lift into the air with the power.
Sure.
You could do amazing stuff with it.
Yeah.
But, you could just make a shield out of air.
Now, of course, the second oath forbids any of the Aes Sedai from doing any of that.
From making weapons with the power?
That's true.
But not shields.
That's true.
Or breastplates.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A little more, see, now I'm thinking about shard plate.
And Oh, yeah. I mean, they do start making weapons in the end when Perrin discovers the power wrought blade.
Not
Perrin,
the Aes Sedai.
Right. Perrin and...
The Ashaman.
The Ashaman, yeah.
And he gets a full
remember which
circle of
one.
Ashaman. And...
Well, I think they make something particularly amazing with Perrin's hammer.
yes, Mahalanar has properties that not other power wrought blades have.
Right. Like, whereas a weapon like Land's sword, I read somewhere that it would have been like a common soldier's sword during the War of Power.
Right.
Land's sword.
Yeah, sharp, strong, light.
But his isn't even marked in any special way. It's just
but not particularly magical. He doesn't. It's not even harem marked.
It's just virtually indestructible.
Yeah. Which is funny because Land has to be a sword master.
Oh yeah,
A blade
but
master.
It's any power up blade. Is nobody cares if it has a heron on it or not.
Right.
It's just
it's just funny that he doesn't have a heron on his.
that his sword in particular is like one of the plainer ones.
Right.
I don't know. It suits him.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just so they run, and the whole crowd of people, because the Fade basically gets a riot going.
Yeah. There's people running in every direction.
And so no one can really tell which direction they go, including Moraine.
Rand even has the thought that no one will be able to see where they go.
No.
And he slouches as he runs.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, but that's the thing. No one's going to be able to tell. Like, Moraine has no way to track them. They specifically mentioned they don't have their coins anymore, and no one knows where they go. Even Thom wouldn't be able to find them.
Yeah. Luckily, he knows where they're going.
Sure.
And
Well,
Moraine has a strong suspicion.
yeah, Moraine knows. I mean, they're all going to Camelyn.
Yeah.
So she does find them there. And of course, Thom does tell them where to go. He tells them which inn to go to. So he does know where they're going. But tracking them down would be almost impossible.
Other than that, for this chapter, I just have the last line.
Yeah.
They run out the city gates in the confusion caused by the Myrddraal. After they stop running after a while, and then they trudged along the dusty road, heads down and not talking. The winds spawned death devils that whirled across their path. Sometimes Rand looked back, but the road behind was always empty.
And that's both a positive and a negative.
Yeah. Empty of the Myrddraal, empty of Thom.
No allies, no enemies.
Alone.
That sort of sets the tone for the next couple of chapters with them, because the two of them basically struggle through traveling to Camelyn completely on their own.
Here's where stuff gets really weird, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's some... you've got two boys, inexperienced boys, one of whom's experiencing extreme paranoia, and the other whom suffers several bouts of channeling sickness.
Yeah.
And they're both struck by lightning at one point.
And the Mashadar effect that Matt is having around him that you just pointed out. I never noticed that before. That's a really cool... I feel like it's even stronger than a theory. Like, just thinking of all those scenes now, it makes perfect sense that people would chase them away.
Yeah.
I mean, we know there's extra bandits and stuff out on the roads right now, but they shouldn't look like the type you would chase away. You know, they're two young men... I don't know. I mean, I guess they are armed.
I mean, I say we look at that in some detail as we get to those chapters.
Yeah, we'll keep that in mind when we read the next few.
Yeah.
I mean, the next one's Perrin, but...
Right. Well, whenever we get back to them.
Yeah. I think maybe the one after her. Soon.
All right.
Soon.
Well, good chapter.
Yeah, that was a good one. Later, guys.
Bye. Yeah, why don't I take a moment and thank our Patreons? Patrons, because we've gotten a lot of support, and we've been sort of playing catch up the last couple of weeks, so we haven't had a chance to really get in depth into what's going on Patreon. but I've seen some really good support out there.
Yeah, there were a couple of really big pledges and a few new ones. It's always just so cool to see that so many people are listening. Still surprising.
Still surprising. And so I want to thank everybody. And, I think I got a bunch of people a couple weeks ago, and I wrote everybody down, but I may thank somebody a second time just because I want to make sure I get everybody.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So we've got Jacob Miller from South Carolina. He's in Ashaman in our...
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, Jacob. Jaina Tilton. She's also at the Ashaman level. And she's in Utah, which that's Sanderson's territory, right?
Is that that's the highest one, right?
Elevation?
Rank?
I'm not sure if I've added the Tamerlane yet.
Tamerlane.
I'll have to double check if that's published. So we've got Jay and Jesse Meisfeld. That's great. I guess they're listening as a couple, would be my guess.
Oh, cool.
Which is always kind of neat when they've got somebody else who's read the book, and two, that they listen to the podcast together.
What a rare thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Seth is the only person I have to talk about the Wheel of Time. It's actually true.
Either that or both their names are on the account and just one of them's using it. But
oh well. Thanks whoever donated.
Thank you.
All of you.
I got to say thank you to Jeffrey Petrie again. He upped his donation level for us. So, dude, you're awesome. Awesome tattoos. Really appreciate the support.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this guy's Instagram.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. I haven't actually looked at it. Is it good?
Yeah, he's really active on there, too.
Cool.
Just like pictures of his tattoos. And I think he has a dog. I think he had a really cool dog.
And I'm going to shout out John Michael again, because John Michael has been there for all of our live broadcasts. Was even there the night you couldn't make it. He made it. Where were you, Patrick?
Oh, shit. He's just our good friend now.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate it. So, Kelsey Maxwell, she's helping us out. She's in Dallas, Texas. I think I mentioned her last time, but I'll go ahead and throw it in here again just in case I didn't.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, here. I'll use this break, too. This is Jeff's dog. That's really beautiful. Black German Shepherd. Have you seen one of these?
No, that's gorgeous.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's just like a short video of him running around somebody's backyard, but...
Yeah, I'm a big fan of black dogs. Apparently they get adopted less than normal dogs.
Really?
Yeah.
People think they're bad?
Bad
luck or something?
What I've heard is that they don't photograph well, and so people don't like, when they're browsing the internet looking at dogs, they don't fall in love with the black ones.
Oh.
But... it could also be that like black is bad luck or something like that. But Timber's black. He's pretty solid black except for a white stripe on his chest, so and a white spot on his neck.
Yeah.
I adopted a black dog because I think they're gorgeous. So a black German Shepherd is totally right up my alley.
He's a little pit bull mix.
Oh, and then so we actually did publish the Tamerlane level, and
oh, cool.
Matthew Potter is donated at that level. So now we've got two guys at that level, which is pretty
Thanks
impressive.
so much, Matt. You're awesome as well.
And here in London, wow, that's crazy. Thank you so much.
All of you guys are awesome.
Yeah, we'll have
Thanks
to figure
so much.
out. We're working on this artwork, and I think
Oh yeah.
we're doing we're going to do signed copies of that to these guys, to the Tamerlane
Sure.
level. Yeah.
I can sign some stuff.
Yeah, so I think we'll get that out to you guys.
I think-
But we're still definitely figuring this out.
Right before we started recording, we were talking about T-shirts and how other just kind of merch stuff that I don't think I don't know if I would even want to sell any. Like maybe the first round, maybe we can do merch for sale eventually. I don't know. We're totally roughing this stuff out, but I want to send stuff to specifically the people who are donating, and I think we can. Do we have addresses through Patreon? Could we just do that at any time?
Yeah.
So okay.
And we've promised stuff.
Have we made specific promises?
I have. Okay. I've made tentative promises. I've said stickers and buttons.
Okay.
For some of the lower levels, and then sort of signed copies of artwork for the upper levels.
That would be great.
Because those are all things that we can supply. They're supposed to be thank you gifts. We're not trying to sell merchandise here.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I'm saying that whatever we get is first going to go to
our
Patreon
Patreons.
folks.
Oh, absolutely. They've been great. And so now we've got Phil Walker donated last time, and he upped his donation level. He went from the $5 level to the $20 level.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, thanks, Phil.
You were awesome as well.
We appreciate that. I don't know why I always say we appreciate that.
We do appreciate it.
We do.
Tremendously. Have we mentioned before that we don't have to pay hosting fees are paid for?
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Yeah, we just get to keep
It's like no money out of pocket anymore, at least.
Yeah, and hopefully, another month or two and the microphones will be paid for.
Yeah.
Now all we're spending is our time, which is not that expensive.
Yeah, and this is, a hobby to begin with.
Yeah, no, we love doing this. I mean, I feel like I'm learning tons more about the series as we just in the first half of the first book.
Oh yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool to see people's corrections, some of which have been really helpful to us.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's cool to pick your brain and know what you think about it. And I've come to some new realizations myself just by going this deep into it.
Me too.
I feel like it's really been sort of this new approach to a book that I really love.
And spending so much time on each of these little parts is really, I don't know, I've never done this before.
It's engaging. It's very engaging. It makes you consider each little sentence instead of just as you're reading and skimming through, you just, I didn't, I read that sentence, but I didn't really think about what it meant.
Yeah.
And here we do.
I've noticed a couple things. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but I've noticed a few things that I felt like was for the first time, just a single line of dialogue or something that I don't know, never struck me before, or I just was reading quickly and...
Or sometimes I just don't make the connection between something that was said much later and something that happens, and you have to realize, they were referencing this event, and I've had a realization.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize that conversation reflected back on this early scene, especially with Moraine.
Right. Any other Patreon folks?
No,
recent ones?
That's everybody. I'm just actually marking who I mentioned this time.
Yeah, we really want to read everyone's name out, and eventually.
Oh, you know what? There's a couple of folks at the $1 level that I just want to shout out to. James Flinders and Jesse Kramer. Thanks for the buck.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I can't say bang.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or your favorite podcast client.